So, I don't really talk about this, but when I heard about PlayStation planning to remove physical copies from their store in 2028, it made me think of something that I haven't really thought about in a while. A few years back, when DC had their own streaming service, yes, they actually had their own streaming service, I checked it out, mostly because I was curious to see their projects, like Stargirl, Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, and the Titans, the latter of which I wound up regretting, cause man, that sucked ass, but that's a story for another time. But besides TV shows and movies, they also offered comics. And during the time of the pandemic, they were releasing Batman The Adventures Continue on the app. Since I wasn't able to go to my local comic shop for a while, I wound up checking out those comics. Now, I've done a whole review of it, so I'm not going to get into my full thoughts on it, but on a whole, I really dug them. I was really enjoying reading these stories on the DC app, especially since it did kind of fill in the gap that I wasn't able to get going to my local shop. However, things kind of went south pretty fast, as HBO Max was announced. And because Warner Brothers didn't really want to do two streaming services, they decided to move most of their DC projects to HBO Max, leaving the DC streaming service unnecessary. So they pretty much scrapped it, which sucked, but what sucked even more was all of the comics I was reading there were gone. And no, they didn't have an option where I could save them into a separate hard drive, like they were gone. I couldn't get those back. That was money lost. Just poof. Of course, I was pissed off, but there was a bright side. As the lockdowns were slowly loosening, I was able to go back to my local comic shops, so it hurt less. Plus, DC did announce that they were going to release printed copies of some of their comics. It was pretty cool, which meant I get to have a physical copy of those things, so I get to read them anytime I want. Because in the end of the day, people like owning things. They don't want to code in a box to download a game that they could lose either because the server shut down, which does happen. Look at you, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, or their PlayStation gets damaged, or they don't have enough room to save all of their games and they have to get rid of one. Like, if you do it now, that sucks, but that's not a big deal since you still have a physical copy of the game, so you can still play it whenever you want. But yeah, you either gotta buy extra space, or you're just gonna have to choose which game you're gonna get rid of. So yeah, that's a load. Anyway, as you can guess, I'm not a big fan of this, but that's just me. How about you guys? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates, and follow me on Blue Sky. Later.